listening to the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski,
featuring former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, Neama Rahmani.
New evidence coming out pointing to Rex Heuermann's involvement in possibly more murders. I'm going to guess, Neama, probably doesn't come as a very big surprise to you or really any of us. I guess the question now is, how do we fully connect this to Rex Heuermann? We know that they're around the same time that some of the other bodies were found, late 90s, early 2000s, same area. But again, it's been about 15 years or so since some of these took place, some even longer. How do we fully connect this over to Rex Heuermann other than it looks like it could possibly have been him? Do you think they're going to find a way to do that?
Yeah, I would hope so. And obviously, I mean, you talked about the connections, right? We're talking about Long Island. We're talking about same time frame, sex workers, right? So it all sort of follows the same MO. But as we know, as prosecutors, it's not what we know, it's what we can prove. So we really don't see a whole lot of serial killers nowadays. And I think you and I have talked about this just because of the changes in technology, right? You're not going to be able to just kill multiple victims over the span of years or even longer now because law enforcement has the advantage. But obviously, look, these are older cases. These are victims that don't have that same family support. They might have been missing for a while without folks even knowing. Maybe they were runaways and so forth. But I mean, no question, if you are working on a cold case as a detective and the victim is a sex worker anywhere where Rex Heuermann was, Long Island, New Jersey, South Carolina, Vegas, I mean, you got to be looking at him as a potential suspect. And I don't know if we're going to get some sort of conviction. He's saying he's innocent and New York isn't going to execute him. So this is also the type of case that goes to trial. But look, maybe you'll have a situation where, I know we're dealing with the BTK actually recently, and Natalie Holloway, Jorn Vandersloot, right? I mean, he's someone who's been convicted of murder, and he admitted to killing Natalie Holloway. So maybe after Heuermann gets convicted the first, second, maybe third time, maybe he comes clean and says, look, these are all the women I killed, just to give the family some sort of closure.
That'd be interesting to see if that did in fact happen. Obviously, there is that new BTK investigation going on, and we'll see where that leads. Ultimately, the families want that sort of closure. And even in his case, they offered him immunity. Just tell us, just give us the peace for the family. And he still says, I don't want to take accountability for someone else's work. Very sick way. But these other victims here that we're seeing, Valerie Mack, Karen Vergata, those are the two that have just popped up here that some of the attorneys for the victims are bringing to the table. In terms of how many this man has killed, how long does that investigation go on for? Do we at some point say, we got him, he's going to be behind bars now? Do investigations continue forward into these other possible cases of murder, or is it, we know there's likely more, but we may stop digging? Because that does seem kind of what happened with Dennis Rader and BTK until somebody said, hey, there's a treasure trove of evidence over here of other ones.
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with murders, you got to keep investigating just because, again, the victims deserve that, right? And there's certain types of cases. One recently that comes to mind is Harvey Weinstein, right? He's likely going to die in New York prison, probably sexual assaults. But there's victims here in California, Los Angeles, where I live. And people are asking, well, what's the point of all this? Why are we going forward with these trials and these prosecutions when it's really not going to have any practical effect? But I think when you're dealing with rape, when you're dealing with murder, these are the types of cases that you got to keep digging because, again, the victims, the family members, they do deserve justice in a way that might not be necessary if you're talking about other types of crimes.
We're learning, and I'm literally going to be reading this here for the first time as we're talking because the press conference just took place on this. One of the witnesses said that they went to Heuermann's house for a sex party in February 1996 with her boyfriend, who was a cop. Heuermann's wife, Asa Ellerup, was at the house when they arrived. The witness said in an affidavit, the witness said that Vergata went downstairs and that Heuermann and her boyfriend vanished for a while. During that time, she spoke with Ellerup, who said that Heuermann had brought her from her country and that everything she had, he had given to her. The affidavit states Ellerup also allegedly told the witness that she was afraid of Rex. This is reporting from the Daily Beast. With that being said, we've been wondering for quite some time, how aware was Asa Ellerup of the actions of her husband? She seems to play the card that she had no clue. It's an innocent victim as well, and she is shocked too. If more continues to come out, more information, evidence, at least to his whereabouts or what he was involved in, judging by this, at least somewhat aware of ill behavior, is there a chance that there could be a prosecution against her as well for some sort of involvement with this? Obviously, it'll depend on how much she knew and when.
Yeah, I think that's a very real possibility. You and I have talked about this over the show for months now. And here's someone that, at a minimum, has been pretty insensitive and tone deaf to the victims, and caring about her house and telling reporters to stay away. By the way, I love the Daily Beast. They do some really good reporting there. But I mean, here's someone that, to the extent that she wasn't out of town when some of this stuff happened or helped cover it up, she can, no question, be considered as an accessory after the fact to these murders, right? So she probably should lawyer up, and she probably should take a very different tone. I mean, here's someone that, if I were her and if I have any information, I would throw my ex-husband under the bus as quickly as possible, try to cooperate and get some type of deal. Because among prosecutors, I'm taking a very close look at her. How could all of this be happening really under her nose and her not know about it?
I agree. I mean, I've been very skeptical of her from day one, just by her behavior, because it seemed very bizarre for someone in her situation to exhibit the things the way that she did. Everybody deals with grief and trauma different, but it has been extremely tone deaf. I'm seeing here there's another account, another witness described Heuermann as a serial user of sex workers who would sometimes invite 2 at a time to his house. During several of those encounters, Ray is the attorney for several of the victims, the witness told him that Heuermann's wife was upstairs. Being upstairs when your husband's having sex parties downstairs, obviously that's an interesting arrangement for any marriage. But again, it does very much show that she was aware. Why has she not thrown Rex under the bus as of yet?
Maybe she needs the pressure of a looming indictment or a criminal complaint to put her feet to the fire. And that's often what happens. As a prosecutor, you might threaten someone with prosecution, but it's very different when they've been arrested, they've been arraigned, they have a lawyer, and they're looking at a trial date. And that puts a lot more pressure on folks to flip and cooperate.
Sick of the ads?
We are too.
Start listening with no commercials now and get access to all of our episodes in advance of everyone else.
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
True Crime Today Premium Plus.
Sign up now.